preview to Saturday Night Lady. We're all about Saturday Night Live from a woman's perspective. Because to paraphrase Private Miller in Pineapple Express, you know the problem I have with the dog and pony show of SNL podcasts? One, lots of dudes. There are some females that are ladies in our community that do appear on various places, but there's just not enough. So since there's going to be a new season starting up with SNL, I thought this would be a good time to launch this podcast. First, a basic intro. I'm Deej Barens. I am the creator behind We Heart Hater, the Bill Hader podcast. And with us is Shari Fesko, my sister from another mister, who you may recognize from the Saturday Night Live Hall of Fame water cooler.
Hi, Deej. I'm very, very excited to be starting this. Totally agree with you. There are a lot of dudes and not enough women.
Yes.
And so I'm glad that we're not only SNL fan women, but we're going to be talking about the women of SNL.
Yes.
Especially, I feel like behind the camera.
Yes, very much.
Don't get nearly enough credit, and they're just as important.
Yes.
So I'm really excited that we're bringing this to the podosphere.
If you are a listener to the SNL Hall of Fame, that podcast is effectively comes to its conclusion, which is a bit of a disappointment because we're this close to getting Rosie Schuster in the Hall of Fame, but it didn't quite work out. So once we found out that was ending, basically that was Shari's only podcast thing out there, other than, of course, our appearances on the patron feedback shows on Saturday Night Network. And I thought, well, I think this is needed, and we got to get Shari back out on the internet. So I approached her with my idea for a more broad subject of Saturday Night Live. We definitely do want to go into great performers, which you all know, but people like Rosebud Baker, who recently departed, Rosie Schuster, and Beats, Donna, who is dragging the host around the show for so many years. We featured a bit of the interview with her on our last episode of We Heart Hater, because we were discussing the quick change in the Justin Timberlake Christmas episode in season 32. Also, we don't want to just focus on the on-camera, because it's very important, but there's many, many women behind the scenes that the show would not work without the people. We're just going to quickly introduce you to ourselves, a little bit of background with SNL, and then, so Shari, I'm going to have you start.
My name is Shari. Shari like Starry, as I tell people, because I did get my start on the SNL Hall of Fame water cooler, where we basically broke down the episode. So we were a podcast about a TV show. And we did about half-hour episodes of every episode of the SNL Hall of Fame from season 6 and season 7. So we came in kind of late to the game. And I was very sad. So when Deej and I started chit-chatting, because, as we've both said, not a lot of women in the SNL community in general online, I feel like. And we sort of found each other. We're around the same age, and we just seem to have a lot in common.
Yes.
And I think we were both very disappointed in the representation of females in the podcasting world in general, but also in the SNL world. And the fact that those involved in SNL from the female perspective don't get talked about as much. And that is just sad to me, as we've been saying. And so when she asked me to be a part of this project, I immediately jumped at it. I, like Deej, I'm a long time viewer. I laugh at these kids who talk about, like John, love you, John, from the Saturday Night Network. He's like 34, and he knows a lot. He knows a lot,
yes,
way more than I do. But he talks about his first cast being 2000 or something, because he's young.
I believe it was the Bill Hader Sudeikis season 31 starting era.
Would that be 2000s or late 90s?
No, let me think. I want to say 2003.
Yeah. So you and I, Deej, by 2003, had been watching SNL for many, many moons, yes. I'm assuming.
Yes, exactly.
I've been watching it since I was about 8. Probably not with permission, but I was watching it. Well, my dad didn't. My dad had divorced parents from a pretty young age, and we would go to his friends for poker, and what would be on?
Of course.
SNL. And I'm talking the original cast, Bill Murray, Gilda Radner, etc. And so I didn't obviously watch regularly, but I watched a lot. And the older I got, the more I got into it. Very into Mr. Bill. Mr. Bill was a big thing when I was a kid.
Oh no!
So, yeah. And I was just always fascinated by the show because it was so unique being live. Live television has all but disappeared now. But even back in the 80s, they weren't doing a whole lot of live TV. And I've always been obsessed with comedy. So it just became a natural thing for me. And I definitely latched on to the women. Because what do you latch on to? You latch on to that which you can relate to. And I could relate, no offense to the men. I have several favorite male cast members, but the women were the ones I related to. And, Gilda was from Michigan. So I feel a special kinship. So that's kind of my origin story and how I got here, why I got into SNL. And I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm really excited to start breaking things down and talking about the new season.
Yes, as am I. So my name is Deej Barens. So while we have Shari, who is our American, I'm the Canadian. So we got a cross-border experience going here. Canada has long been a good source of comedy, like Kids in the Hall, Wayne and Schuster, all the things. Even Lorne Michaels, who got his start up in Canada on the CBC, on the what was it, the Lorne and somebody happy hour,
Heart, Lorne and Heart, I believe.
Yeah, the Lorne and Heart happiness hour. SCTV is also a big influence on me. So I am going to actually be 56 in September. So we're talking from a true Gen X perspective. My first experience of SNL was in starting like 80, 81. I think it was it was just past the transition between the old cast, that one weird season, and then the new cast. So back then, my favorite was Gary Kroeger. He joined in the 1980-81 season. That included Eddie Murphy and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Yet another fine example of the trouble that women were having on SNL, trying to play not the secretary or the nurse or the assistant or something like that. In that particular era, it was the Eddie Murphy dominated era, so that didn't quite help. I actually wrote him a fan letter, and he wrote back. I wish I still had it, but it was in like a album in my storage room at the building I was living in at the time. And unfortunately, there was some flooding in the basement, and that kind of got damaged. I hope I'm not going to get back, so I gotta stop rambling. I do a lot of editing on my end. Something that happens with where I talk is my brain goes faster than my mouth can keep up with. So, but just have to remember, just have to remember to slow down, not be too loud. There's some areas where I've kind of waned in my interest and not watched it so much, but I've always been catching up on previous episodes. And as I mentioned, I also co-host another podcast, We Heart Hater, because Bill Hader is my absolute favorite cast member of all time. What we'll be generally doing here is putting out our thoughts on that week's episode. It's going to be a bit of a sad year with all the cast changes we've had in the last few days. We're recording this on August 31st in 2025. But it's a good jumping off point to just get a different perspective on SNL, because even back in the early days, one of the biggest things was the women on the writing staff just fighting against the misogyny that was quite prevalent back then. Like with someone like John Belushi flat out refusing to do anything written by a woman. So as much as I respect him as a talent, that's not exactly a point in his favor, because I'm sorry, women are funny. Women have always been funny. And not just as a sexy background thing like they did on Bizarre, which is the one comedy show of all the decades. And I don't know if you're familiar with Bizarre, the John Biner sketch comedy show. And even when I was younger, I hated that show. I didn't think it was funny. There was two different versions. The Showtime version had female nudity, and then there was a more sort of edited version. Comedy has always been a part of my life. And as well, I've done musical theater, I've done acting, I've done improv. Haven't been quite so active in the last few years, but I still keep up with comedy podcasts and comedians, and I just love to laugh. Your first cast was the original?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to get technical, yeah, I was watching it probably almost from the beginning. Probably not the very beginning, but
Yeah.
I definitely remember watching on Saturday nights at my dad's friend's house, and it was that very first cast. Now, granted, again, I do not have Bill Kenny, another shout out, or John Schneider's recall. They can recall exact episodes, exact line.
Yeah.
I can't do that, but I definitely.
Yeah, because menopause brain is a bitch.
Yes, we will blame it. We will definitely blame it on that because I am very close to Deej's age, almost exactly. I'll be 56 in February, so we're a couple months
cool.
apart. And I don't think I mentioned exactly where I'm from. I'm from Michigan, which is just across the border from Canada, but very far from where Deej is, but not far from Canada from Ontario. And
yeah, and I'm in New Westminster, British Columbia, which is not too far from Bellingham, Washington. Which, until the recent political climate, I used to go down to get cheap gas. But right now, luckily the gas prices went down since we got rid of a carbon tax. So it could have happened at a better time. But I don't feel comfortable going down to the U.S. right now.
Well, hopefully that will be remedied soon. But anyways, I hope so too, because I love Canada. So, and I think Canadians are awesome, and
and we have poutine and ketchup chips.
And Degrassi High, I can ramble too, Deej. Degrassi Junior High. I watch kids at Degrassi because I grew up with CBC. Like I said, very close to Canada. So, and you're absolutely right about Canadian comedy. I mean, we wouldn't have Saturday Night Live without, Second City TV, which Gilda came from. I believe Danny came from.
Oh no! Well, SCTV actually came in around the same time as SNL.
Okay, I thought it came a little before.
But no, but a lot of the people who are on SNL came from the Second City improv group. They had locations in Chicago and Toronto.
But weren't like Danny and Gilda, weren't they involved with SCTV, or am I getting that wrong? Okay.
No,
my mistake.
No, they were not. No. They're involved with Second City, but not SCTV.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I just know that SCTV was very prevalent, like definitely had an effect on SNL. So, and I just, like you said, I mean, we wouldn't have SNL without Lorne, and Lorne is definitely Canadian. And Rosie, let's talk about Rosie. I mean, she was so essential to the show.
Quick aside, on my birthday, September 21st, in 1976.
Okay, so it's a little bit older. All right, I stand corrected. I do know that Gilda was in Canada a long time, and she came from Canada to New York.
Yes, because she was in Toronto, one of the people who came from Godspell.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
Which also included Paul Schaefer. Dated Martin Short for a bit.
She dated everybody. She dated Bill Murray. They all dated each other.
Exactly.
It was the 70s.
Yes, but of course she first married G.E. Smith, yes, who was the frontman for the SNL band for a lot of the 70s and 80s, a little bit of the 90s, was married to Gene Wilder. I'd recently re-listened to the audio version of the one book that she put out, It's Always Something. And it's just, that's one we're definitely going to have to talk about, because Gilda Radner has been a big inspiration for me as well from the early days.
She and Lorraine and Jane Curtin were groundbreaking, because there weren't a lot of women in comedy at that time. Lucy was out there, but she was back in the 50s. She did a show in the 60s and 70s. And I know Carol Burnett was breaking ground, of course. But yeah, they were all really amazing women who just, I mean, Gilda you hear a lot about, but I don't think you hear nearly enough about Jane or certainly not Lorraine. And I'm happy that podcasts like the Saturday Night Network and like That Week in SNL and like SNL Nerds, and I can name a million others that I listen to, they really do, even though they're guy led, they talk about the women a lot. And that makes me happy. They give the women a lot of credit. So that makes me really happy. And I just can't say enough about the importance of women.
Interesting discussion topic. Our favorite SNL podcasts. So we have a lot in common. One I discovered recently called Isn't That Special? They just completed a whole series of reviewing each year's Saturday Night Live, and they do other special things. And it's mostly subscription, but they do have some free episodes, but it's mostly subscription based. Another one I listen to, it comes out every Wednesday. That show hasn't been funny in years.
I just listened to it.
It's a gentleman out of Chicago, and he talks about various SNL subjects. Sometimes they'll focus on a performer or a sketch. The very first episode they did was all about the potato chip sketch. I think the most recent one was...
It was young, check their IDs. It was about very young hosts.
Yes, very much so. But he sometimes will have guests. As I said, sometimes I have guests, sometimes I won't. Saturday Night Network, which we're both a part of. SNL Nerds, That Week in SNL. I'm usually on their live stream. But that's okay. We have a mission here, and this is the best day to do it. Because especially when it comes to when we start reviewing the episodes, we want to get those while they're still fresh in our mind. Are there any other podcasts that I haven't listened that you know of?
The only one I can think of is the Not Ready for Primetime Project with Gary and Brad.
Yes. Yes, how could I forget that one?
That's a fantastic one, too. And they did it.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you're interested in women,
yeah.
They interviewed Rosie Schuster. They interviewed Marilyn Suzanne Miller. They've had some really cool women guests. Again, 2 guys, but they give women a lot of credit. So definitely check out the Not Ready for Primetime Project. It's phenomenal.
Because what I said at the beginning, this is no way of knocking all the other male podcast hosts in the SNL space. It's just that I feel we need more female representation. And speaking of which, if you are an SNL fan, if you're a woman, non-binary, or trans, because we firmly believe that trans women are women, if you do want to appear on the show, we will be glad to have you. I'm going to be setting up an email address. We're probably just going to do a more general one for what I've named my production company that produces this podcast is Wacky Notion Productions. We want to definitely be able to feature more female voices, so if you do want to come on, we'll be glad to have you. So once we probably get our first episode up, I'll have more things set up and more information about that. Now you're talking about female cast members. This is some of our favorites, especially for the first cast. Robin, some great Canadian females. Robin Duke was on there for a few seasons. Most famous for Mrs. T. While the episode with Mr. T and Hulk Hogan was exactly the best episode ever, it was still fun to see her interact with Mr. T.
She's another great female cast member that you don't hear a lot about. And I want to say that she was on the SNL Hall of Fame talking about, she was nominating because she actually worked with him, Joe Piscopo.
I haven't quite been through all the older episodes of the Hall of Fame yet. I basically started the one where they featured Bill Hader, of course.
This was actually fairly recent, Deej. And it was really great because Robin talks about Joe. She talks about working with Eddie as well. She doesn't get a lot of credit, just like Gail Mathias and Denny Dillon.
Yeah.
All interviews you can find on other shows. But these are women who didn't get the credit that Melanie Hutzel, we were talking about Melanie Hutzel and her terrific Jan Brady. Fly in the Wall did a great episode with Melanie. I would highly recommend that too. She's hilarious. Really talented.
Yeah, because they try their best to balance things. Because I remember in Bobby Moynihan's SNL origin story, when he had his first talk with Lauren, so maybe we'll start you in January. And as it turned out, since Maya had left for maternity leave, well, we can't have you on quite yet because we have to replace a female cast member. So a lot of the times with how things get cast in SNL really depends on what do they need at the time. They've been doing a lot better with getting more women on. Back in when the main seasons, Keaton Thompson was, there came a point where I'm not doing drag anymore. There's the famous sketch when Kerry Washington was hosting the show, Michelle Obama, and then had to leave and then come back in as Whitney Houston.
Such a great sketch.
Which brought us the lovely Ego Duodum, Sashir Zamata, who is definitely one of my favorites. One of the things she's done recently that I love is cartoon based on a card game called Exploding Kittens. Stars Tom Ellis, who you may know from Lucifer. He plays God, who is brought to Earth as a cat. And then we have Sashir Zamata as Devil Cat, who is, but in course in hell she's Beelzebub, and she's basically both of them are brought to Earth as cats for some sort of punishment. And then, as they say, wackiness ensues. And one of my favorite things that she did on the show was the Resolution Revolution song. Drake, Terry Killen, and Jay Farrow, and all about the resolutions that they plan to explore for the new year and how they immediately failed. And Leslie Jones, another great woman of SNL. If you have not listened to the audiobook version of her book, you must. You absolutely must listen to it. Because she not only reads the book, but there's stuff that she actually adds in. And there's some times when she actually gets really emotional about things that have happened in her life. And it's just really fascinating how she came up from doing comedy and playing basketball and just her family life. So just it's probably the most unique reading of an audiobook I've ever heard. Because everyone can just read the text, but she'll just add stuff in. So there's little extra content that you get if you actually listen to the audiobook version.
I will have to give that a listen. I read the book and I absolutely loved it. So I can imagine she's so hilarious.
And another one who didn't quite necessarily have the greatest time on SNL. So there's lots of stories that we can find and relate to all of the great women of SNL and the struggles that they went through and how all the ladies that came before really helped future generations be able to succeed and thrive on SNL. Because while not every show is as funny as everyone does, because one thing I always think, that's one of the reasons I love that show hasn't been funny in years, because it makes a good point. Because there's one thing that I absolutely hate is absolute statements. When someone says, oh, SNL's not funny, yeah, SNL it's not funny to you. It's people like that who think that they're speaking for everybody out there. It's like the only person that you're called to speak for is yourself. So I would never use the phrase like, nobody finds this funny. It's like, I'll say, I don't find something funny or find something funny. It's just like, unless you've polled every single person in the world with the opinion of what you have, you just cannot speak for everybody.
100% agree. And it's so interesting just in our small, when I do the live chats for the Saturday Night Network, all of us like different things. Even if it's just about one single episode.
Yes.
We'll all have different favorite sketches, except Deej and I are often going cuckoo about the same sketch.
Yes.
R.I.P. Michael Longfellow.
I know. That was so heartbreaking. I really wish that they didn't leak that thing about him testing for Weekend Update. I wish that never got out, because that just made it hurt more.
I agree. And, and last year we were lamenting, speaking of talented women, Chloe Trost.
Yes.
I just don't think a year is long enough. But then there were people who are like, oh, they weren't getting screen time. They weren't adding anything. I mean, it's very comedy. Everything's very subjective.
Yes.
But SNL is really subjective.
Yes.
And it's so funny when we're just talking about a single episode. There's 17,000 different opinions. So just keep that in mind as you listen.
Yeah, well, even recently when I did the episode for the episodes 15, 14, and 13 for the current greatest episodes countdown that the Saturday Night Network is doing right now. And there was a couple sketches where people didn't find it funny at first, but then eventually found it funny. But they're those ones that I found funny from the get-go. So that's the thing. But SNL is an amalgamation of so many different styles of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Hader actually came up with a good thing. It's like, there are things that you find funny. You have to find what SNL finds funny. And not everything's going to hit. Like, for instance, Beck and Kyle. And it's just, their comic sensibility didn't just quite fit what I like. But there's nothing wrong with that. Because I'm not about to yuck anyone's yum. The other thing that happens a lot is, because I don't like this thing, it shouldn't exist. Well, what about the rest of us who actually liked it?
100% agree. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean you should bum somebody else out. Of course, everybody has opinions, and that's the beautiful thing about things like this podcast. We can have different opinions and still, get along, respect each other's viewpoints. That's one of my favorite things about Saturday Night Live is it is so subjective, and you can have such good discussions about it, and they're never ending. So, which is why Deej and I could probably stay here till midnight talking about all of the things that we love and or don't love.
But that just gives you a general idea of who we are, what we're about, the kind of things we like. This is going to be a bit of a challenge for me because We Heart Hater comes out every 2 weeks. But this I'm going to try to get out weekly because especially when the episodes are on, you want to get the review episode out as soon as you can, usually Monday or Tuesday. Through doing We Heart Hater, I've actually gotten a lot better with editing. The tech lady and Shari is the research lady. So we each have our function, but like I said before, we want to get more female voices on here from different eras, different generations. There's only so much you can hear for a couple of Gen X broads, But I think that provides us with a really good general concept of proof of concept, as I say, with what we're going to be doing here. So I'm really hoping we're probably going to have one episode before the season starts, just going over all the cast changes. And then, of course, once the new season starts and the first weekend of October, then we'll be doing weekly reviews and recaps of those episodes and what we think all about that stuff. So I didn't think I'd be starting another podcast this soon, but sometimes when the ideas just strike you, you just got to go with it. And like I said at the beginning, there's no way that I can keep Sherry from having a weekly outlet anymore because I loved all the work that she did on the Hall of Fame water cooler, and we were actually on the one episode together of the patron feedback show, which most of the time I'm on with my co-host Casey Killingsworth, but sometimes it's funny. Sometimes you want to mix things up, so that's where we've gotten along, especially that round table we did. I love that. That was so much fun.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun. I've gotten to do one myself, and they are a lot of fun because, again, it's all those different opinions.
Okay, so, thank you for joining us for this preview, get to know us kind of episode. So I hope you'll join us on Saturday Night Ladies. From the west side of Canada, I am Deej Barens.
And from somewhere in the Mitten State of Michigan, I'm Shari Fesko.
And thank you for joining us for the Saturday Night Ladies. Saturday Night Ladies is a presentation of Wacky Notion Productions. If you would like to be a guest on the program, please email wackinoprods@gmail.com. Hosted by Deej Barens and Shari Fesko. Recording and editing by Deej Barens. Research by Shari Fesko. Thank you for joining us, and please like, share, and subscribe.